I'm J. Jermaine Bay of Lodium Morris Cranium, Ante, Colorado. The acronym is AMPAC. I'm the Chief Judge of Council of Court. Today is Class 177. Class 177. What did we learn in Class 176? Well, we started to take a deeper dive into what's commonly known as what? Reparations and taxation. But what we started to learn is that the reparations and taxation can only happen after what? Decolonization. There will be no reparations or taxation for the Moors unless they do what first? Decolonize. You see, the word decolonization is tied directly to the word repatriation. Let me say that again. Decolonization is directly tied to repatriation. You see, you can't decolonize until you what? Become a patriot of your own state. What is actually decolonizing? It is both the country and the people. The country is decolonizing and the people. But the people have to do what? Pledge allegiance to the country through its constitution. Therefore, you become a patriot of your nation state. You become a patriot of your country. So decolonization is directly tied to repatriation. And there will be no reparations or taxation until the Moors understand what? Repatriation first. The old saying is what? There's no taxation without representation. Isn't that the same? How the hell Moors gonna collect taxes when they're not even the representatives of their own country? The Moors must become the representatives of their country and become patriots. But what I learned about the Moors is we keep trying to take shortcuts. We want to skip past the due process of decolonization and go straight to what? Compensation. This is why people keep screaming out loud about reparations. Reparations is a due process to get to a final result. Reparations is paid to a nation state. Well, how you gonna have a state when you didn't repatriate? It's just that simple. So in Class 176, we start to really underline the true essence of the Moors' problem. What is the true essence of the Moors' problem? Well, the true essence is acquiescence. You see, the Moors have continued to acquiesce by not pledging allegiance to their own mother political country. Your original country is the Empire of Morocco. It is not the United States of America. Until the Moors decide to repatriate, become patriots of their own state, they'll continue to remain in a political status of naturalization and subjugation, which means there'll never be what? Reparations and taxation, because you failed at what? Repatriation. Everything started with you. Everything starts with the individual Moor. So either Moors don't know the instructions, they don't know the steps on how to repatriate, or they're doing what? They're intentionally ignoring the fact of following the instructions. You see, for some reason, the Moors have continued to procrastinate. for some reason, the Moors don't want to do what? They don't want to truly adhere to what? Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Because that last word to them is a what? Illusion. Moors don't want justice. Because justice means an organized dual society of laws of what? The state. You cannot have love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice without pledging allegiance to the state. And the Moors keep wondering why we've been failing as a people, because the Moors do not want to adhere to one organized body of laws. The Moors want to have 1,000 different tribes or 1,000 different churches, 1,000 different LLCs, everything but one organized dual society of the state. And the Europeans know it. The Europeans know that the Moors continue to practice separatism. The Europeans know that the Moors continue to practice what? Tribalism. Europeans have been winning all because the Moors have been procrastinating. Because they don't want to come under one body of laws to be governed and held to the standards of the law. Therefore, the Moors don't want the black man, white man, or Moroccan to tell them what to do. This is the problem. But I have good news. The doors of the Empire of Morocco are open to any Moors who want to come in and work as a team to abide by the laws of the Empire of Morocco. We're here. There are Moors who have pledged their allegiance to the Empire of Morocco. There are Moors who are willing to do what? To sacrifice, to do what's right for our nation. So please, by all means, for all the Moors out there, they're looking for an organized dual society where there's standards, where there's laws. Please come home and help us to decolonize. Because decolonization is going to lead us directly to the taxation. But reparations is a byproduct of what? Repatriation. It starts with you, Moors. Let's get into the class. All right, as the Moors know, I always hold up the Constitution. The Constitution is paramount. It is the first law of the Empire of Morocco. It's the first law, body of laws, that all Moroccans can adhere to equally. It's just treatment. It's just protections for all. It is we, the Moors, we. The Moors have to get out of this I'm standing on my square crap. Standing on your square means you're all by yourself as an individual Moor. You have to come home and be a part of a team, an organized dual society of Moors, plural. They have locked arms to enforce the laws of Moroccan law, treaty law, and international law. We work together at the Empire of Morocco. You see, one of the things I learned about, as an example, Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan at first was really only interested in his what? Individual accolades. But at some point he wanted to do what? He wanted to win a ring. The only way for Michael Jordan to win a ring, he had to do what? Play within the team. He had to play within the team instead of being an individual on a team. Michael Jordan did not win a ring until he learned how to play on a team. And this is what the Moors have to understand. You have to stop looking for your individual accolades. You have to come and play within the team, and then you'll win the ring. The ring of what? Of uplift and fall of humanity. This is the ring. That's the championship. Can the Moors emerge? as a sovereign and independent state and start to self-govern through the three branches of government and get into relations with other foreign countries. That's the ring. And we can only do that as a what? Team. Let's continue. All right, as the Moors know, the Constitution of Empire of Morocco is the umbrella constitution. And underneath that umbrella constitution, which is our mother constitution of the external state, underneath it we have internal states. For example, this is the Constitution of AMPAC as an acronym. All internal constitutions come under the Constitution of the Empire of Morocco. All the Moors will need an internal constitution because you have to know the difference between what? Internal states versus what? The external state. What's the external state? The Empire of Morocco, right? Let's continue. Okay, so we've been talking about decolonization yields reparations in the form of taxation, right? Now, in the last class, we started talking about the fact that the Moors have technically delayed their own justice. How did the Moors delay their own justice? Because they don't want to adhere to justice. So before I continue the class, let's take it to the board. What I have up here, this is called what? Common sense mathematical equation, right? I'll read it again. It's called common sense mathematical equation. Now, mathematical equations are simplified sometimes, right? For example, this is just a two-part mathematical equation, right? It's like salt and pepper, okay? Just two parts. X times Y equals Z, okay? Now you can plug and play and add anything to X and add anything to Y, but you're going to get a result, that's Z. Now watch this. Watch how simple math is. 2 times 2 equals what? 4. Now you say, well, that's easy. Everybody knows 2 times 2 is 4. But how do you know it's 4? It's because someone taught it to you. Even as simple as that mathematical equation is, someone taught it to you as a child. And now looking back on you like, oh, that's easy. But it wasn't easy when you first learned that 2 times 2 equals 4. Someone had to teach it to you. So we're talking what? Philosophy and psychology. We have to get into the minds of the Moors. We have to teach the Moors fundamentals. But sometimes fundamentals can appear to be complex. But the reality, they're just fundamentals, just like 2 times 2 equals 4. As an example, watch this. So we're talking common sense mathematical equations, but someone has to teach you the formula, and they have to start with fundamentals. Watch this. Here's another mathematical equation. Watch this. Procrastination times naturalization equals subjugation. Did you see that? Let me do it again. Watch this. Mathematical equation. 2 times 2 equals 4. That's easy. Someone taught that to you. Okay, so now we have to teach the Moors another mathematical equation that's easy, but it looks complicated. Procrastination times naturalization, what's the result? Subjugation. What else? What? Repatriation, listen. Repatriation times a nation equals decolonization. Well, what's happening here? This is a mathematical equation. Well, repatriation, right, to your nation equals decolonization because you're decolonizing anytime you repatriate. That's a mathematical equation. Repatriation to your nation equals decolonization. Aren't the Moors supposed to be decolonizing? Yes. Then tell me what are the steps of decolonization if it does not include repatriation to your nation state. How can you decolonize? You're not returning to a country to pledge allegiance to said country. Listen. Mathematical equation, pay attention more. This is important. These are fundamentals that seem complex, but it's just like 2 times 2 equals 4 once you understand it. Okay, this line right here. Restoration times administration equals taxation. Well, what does that mean? That's a mathematical equation. Well, restoration, right? Because you've done repatriation, so you restored your political status. You pledge allegiance to the state. Now the state has what? An administration. What's the administration? A government. So now through repatriation and restoration of your government can now do what? Go out and collect what? Taxes. So restoration of the administration equals an opportunity to collect taxes. Well, watch this. Territory times inventory equals depository. Mathematical equation. So the territory, which is the land has what? Inventory, such as buildings, all types of infrastructure, mineral rights, right? So the territory has inventory, and that inventory creates depository because now you're collecting what? Taxes, and you're getting a percentage of everything that comes out of your land, in the land, from the land. Because territory means land. So territory times inventory, you're taking an inventory of everything in your territory, that results in what? Depository of what? Taxes. You get a percentage of everything. But check this out at the bottom. Here's where the Moors faltered and continue to falter. Cognitive dissonance times the foolishness equal acquiescence. Let me say it again. Cognitive dissonance times the foolishness equals acquiescence. So what is cognitive dissonance? That's when you would hold on to your belief. Because you obviously think a church is a state. You would hold on to your belief because you think you're black. And you think that's a nationality. Cognitive dissonance causes foolishness. Because you've been fooled by someone. Your beliefs are subordinate to truth. Truth can be proven every day of the week. I'm trying to talk to the Moors. Listen to me. Cognitive dissonance times the foolishness equal acquiescence. What's acquiescence? When you tacitly agree to something without protest. Moors are not protesting in the proper way. Listen to me. Moors are saying, I'm not what? I'm not a citizen of the United States. Then they turn and say what? I'm a citizen of the United States of America. Wait, time out. You just say you're not a citizen of the United States, but you're a citizen of the United States of America? You know what you just did? That's called acquiescence because you still call yourself an American citizen instead of Moroccan national. What's the truth of your nationality? You're Moroccans. Then why are you continuously saying that you are American? Because you think you were named after a continent, and people are not named after continents. People are named after countries. This is the problem. Therefore, the Moors and black people, Negroes, colors, whatever name you want to use, our people suffer from cognitive dissonance because you don't let go of the belief. Therefore, you're stuck on the foolishness. You fooled yourself. You fell for the banana in the tailpipe while people sold you packages. They sell you the package, you run out with it, and you get yourself in deeper trouble. And you know who you ultimately blame? The white man. Or you don't blame the man who gave you the package. You blame the white man. Let's keep it real. Let's read this bottom sentence. Watch this. Let's start from here. Cognitive dissonance times the foolishness equal acquiescence. I.e., stop blaming white people for your problems. This is AMPAC study session. This is the AMPAC study session. This is what? Educational platform. We're going to have straight talk. I'm learning the Moors don't want to have straight talk. They want a chaser with everything. They don't want a straight. They want a chaser. There's 177 classes. You know, right now we're in December 2025 while this is being recorded. This is the time you get around your family members, right? Holidays. You know why family don't get along most times? Because they know you. And they try to tell you the truth and you don't want to hear it. This is why we as a people rather hang around strangers, because strangers don't know you. Strangers not going to say, man, I love you, but you're messing up. But your family will look you straight in your eyes and say, yeah, cut the crap. Look you straight in your eyes and say it again. Oh, it hurts when your family tell you, because you know your family knows the truth about you. And this was happening with the Moors. I stand here as your fellow Moor. I stand here as your family. I wear a fez for God's sake. I'm your family. I'm trying to help the Moors by giving it to you straight. But what I'm learning is the Moors don't want it straight. They want it with a chaser. That means we're just dragging behind at the back of the marathon because people are not ready to make a decision. So since they're not ready to make a decision, you know what they do in the meantime? This is what they do. They blame white people. You know what white people know? Because I've been studying international law. I've been reading the books. I've been reading as much thesis and anything else I get my hands on. Europeans know that Moors have been procrastinating. They know it. Donald Trump knows what it is you're supposed to be doing for yourself. He knows. And this is why he'll get on TV and tell you the woke is dead. You know why he's saying woke is dead? Because he knows if you won't pledge your allegiance to the Empire of Morocco, but you'll stay over there with the Europeans complaining. All because you don't want to do what? You don't want to repatriation to your nation. So you want to keep complaining to your stepmother and stepfather, and they're sick and tired of you. They want to tell you to take your behind home. Go home to your biological mother if you don't like things under the jurisdiction of the United States. But you know why they won't tell you? Because they know how powerful the Moors treaties are. If you was Haitian or Venezuelan, they couldn't wait to tell you what your nationality is. Why won't they tell black people that they're Moors? Because they know Moor is a short title for Moroccan, and Moroccans have sovereignty and jurisdiction in this land. So the Europeans despise you because they know that the vast majority of you know what you're supposed to do and you won't do it, but yet you stay over there with your step-parents complaining. And this is why Donald Trump tells you, stop complaining. You don't like the way things are in this house, get out. This is what Donald Trump's trying to tell all of you. But he can't just really give it to you straight. He's still giving you the chaser because he won't tell you that you're a Moor. Because he don't want the Moors to rise even above Donald Trump. That's the only reason why he's not telling you your true nationality. He don't mind saying the word Somalian. He don't mind saying Venezuelan. Why won't he say Moroccan? You see? Anyway, let's get into the class. Let's continue. The Moors have to understand this. As we start to go into a new year of 2026, what's going to be your New Year's resolution? What's it going to be? I'm your family. I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you. I'm Uncle Jay. Uncle Jay talking to you. Huh, nephew? Huh, niece? Huh, cuz? What about you, Unc? What's your New Year's resolution as black people? You sick of Donald Trump? Good. When are you going to pledge your allegiance to Empire Morocco? I'm talking to Moorish Americans. What's going to be your New Year's resolution, Moorish Americans? You going to pledge your allegiance to Empire Morocco? Or you going to go right back out there and talk about your temple as a state, which is a lie? What's your New Year's resolution? I'm trying to have straight talk with my family. I stand here with the feds on trying to talk to my people. Going into a new year, what is the New Year resolution for 2026? How are you going to start off? With the same BS you did in 2025, in 2024, 2023, 2022, 21, and 20? The last 5 years, the same old, over and over again. You know what they call that? Insanity. Expecting something to change, you ain't changed nothing. How you expect change and you haven't even changed your own political status? You see what I'm saying? Let me say this before I move on. Stop blaming white people. Stop it. Because one of these days, Donald Trump, the capitalists, and the KKK gonna look you straight in your eyes and say, have you pledged your allegiance to the Empire Morocco yet? And you gonna look at them and say, no. They gonna tell you, shut the hell up. You don't like the way things are around here? Tough. You wanna stay over here with the USA and the KKK? Then shut the hell up. Or pledge your allegiance to Empire Morocco and then help us to enforce our Moroccan laws and treaties against who? Anybody who's a party to our contracts. Anybody who's a part of our territories. I'm trying to have straight talk. We're going into the new year. What's your New Year's resolution? Let's continue. Okay, Mr. Morris, no. We all have to pledge allegiance to Empire Morocco. That is our mother state. It is our mother. The Empire Morocco is what? The external, sovereign, independent state. Who's head of state? The Sultan. The office of Sultan, not the monarch. The office, the Sultan is an elected position. It's a 7-year term, which means anybody who runs for the office of Sultan can become Sultan if they're voted in. It's not a monarch. We're done with those days. Okay, then we got 3 branches of government, right? 1, 2, 3. Through the 3 branches of government, we can start to help the more subjects. Because without the government, 1, 2, 3, right? Without the government, how can Moors repatriate? Repatriation is dealing with what? Administration of paperwork. You have to fill out paperwork in order for the Empire Morocco to recognize you as a Moroccan national again. So the more subjects have to return to Morocco and pledge allegiance. What do I mean when I say return? Return to do what? Fill out the paperwork with the government of the Empire Morocco. Right? So what's the website? You go to the website. Here's the website. Okay? Go to the website, and you can find the contact information, okay? There's the Sultan. Okay? There's the Sultan of the Empire Morocco who was voted in by special election in the year 2025. It's Kendon Bey. Congratulations to Kendon Bey. Right? Now, Sultan Kendon Bey ended up becoming Sultan as it reads right here. Kendon Bey, the 2nd Sultan of the Empire Morocco since 1956. Okay? All right. So congratulations to Kendon Bey. All right. Now listen. You go to your contact. All right. So the Moors, they want to contact the Empire of Morocco. You can contact the Minister of Foreign Affairs. Right? Take a screenshot of that. Here's the information on the website. There's no excuse, Moors. We're here to help you. Knowledge is free at the WRC. Listen. All right, there's the flag. Pay attention. So knowledge is free at the WRC. right? We don't charge a fee. There's no donation tab. There's no cash out. We want to help our family. You don't charge your family for a plate of food. So anybody you hear out there trying to charge you a fee, whether it's $25 or whatever it is, they're scamming you. Anybody who say they represent the Empire of Morocco and they ask you for anything more than a penny is scamming you. You must understand this. So knowledge is free at the WRC. You'll work with the Trusteeship Council and we'll help you to become a Moroccan again. Okay? Listen. Now, in class 176, we talked about taxes, right? That the United States of America, as an example, owes 2% taxes towards any sale of real estate. But according to this diagram, right here in this square, right, because this is 4 squares, 1, 2, 3, 4. In this square, that's the treaty. The act out of Sarah that talked about the taxes, right? But the taxes through the treaty cannot be realized unless the Moors do what? In order to get access to the treaty, you have to come through the Constitution of the Empire of Morocco. The portal to get access to treaties must come through the Constitution, and it's what? Duly appointed or elected officials of the state. More than run around here trying to enforce treaties, and treaties are non-self-executing. Moors can't enforce treaties by themselves. If you have not been the elected or appointed official to enforce the treaty on behalf of the Moroccan nationals, then you cannot enforce treaties. Treaties are non-self-executing, meaning you can't execute it. You can't speak on behalf of that treaty. Only the officials of the Constitution of the Empire of Morocco can speak on behalf of treaties, which means only officials can go out and collect the taxes from the United States of America. This is very important to understand what I'm talking about right now. The Moors have been miseducated. This is why Moors are going to jail by the thousands, because they think the Europeans are violating their treaty rights, and they're not. The Europeans know the Moors didn't follow the instructions of first doing what? Repatriation to what? Your nation. And then you can hold office, and then do what? Then you can enforce the treaties through your office, such as the Consul Generals, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister Plenipotentiary, you name it. They can enforce the treaties on behalf of the state. But your average everyday Moor cannot. Did you hear Brittany Griner over in Russia when she was locked up? Was she screaming and hollering, talking about she's enforcing treaties? No. You know who represented Brittany Griner? The officials in this box of the United States was representing Brittany Griner. She wasn't standing on her square by herself. She had a complete country behind her. This the Moors don't understand. Listen. So through the Constitution of the Empire of Morocco, you can get access to treaties and enforce then what? The taxation, because that's a provision within the treaty. Listen, I'm talking repatriation and taxation. The Moors want to talk about taxes. Well, good to know. Well, how do you collect taxes? Who collects the taxes? Who sends the invoice to the United States of America? It is the government of the Empire of Morocco. Well, how could there be a government of the Empire of Morocco if the Moors never came back to take their seats of the government? But before they could take their seats of the government, what's the first thing they had to do? Declare what? Their allegiance to the Constitution of the Empire of Morocco as a regular Moroccan national. Once they do that, then they can do what? Put their name in the hat to be a candidate to be an official of the Empire of Morocco. What's the portal for Moors to come through in order to get access to their Moroccan nationality, and then after that, get access to what? A governmental chair or seat. Then you can help us to collect the taxes. So what's the portal? This is what? Treaty of Madrid of 1880, Article 15, right? Paragraph what? 1 and 2. Okay, from the top. Nova from the top.
Right of protection in Morocco, July 3rd, 1880. Article 15. Any subject of Morocco who has been naturalized in a foreign country and who shall return to Morocco shall, after having remained for a length of time equal to that which shall have been regularly necessary for him to obtain such naturalization, choose between entire submission to the laws of the empire and the obligation to quit Morocco, unless it shall be proved that his naturalization in a foreign country was obtained with the consent of the government of Morocco.
Pause. All right. So what is Article 15, paragraph 1 about? Repatriation. Moors want reparations, they want taxation, but they won't even start with box 1 of what? Repatriation. Which means you have to pledge allegiance to your nation and come under the laws of the Constitution. That's called justice. Having an organized jural society. What does jural mean? The laws of the state. That means you now are going to sacrifice to understand the government has jurisdiction over Moors. This is the problem with the Moors. The Moors don't want nobody to have jurisdiction over them. And that makes you what? Delusional. Because everybody on planet Earth comes under the governance of a state. Believe that. Listen. So right here in Article 15, it says the government of Morocco, right? Which Morocco? Listen. If that's the government of Morocco, which Morocco? The empire of Morocco. The empire of Morocco. Did it say kingdom of Morocco? No. This treaty was written in 1880. There was no kingdom of Morocco in 1880. Therefore, Moors have to pledge their allegiance to the empire of Morocco. Listen. This is the portal. This is very important, Moors. You cannot get reparation and taxation until you come through the portal of repatriation of Article 15. That's a treaty, and treaty is supreme law of the land. Moors keep wanting to enforce treaties on the white man, but they don't want to enforce the treaties on themselves. Listen. Now, once you pledge your allegiance to Morocco, and then if you're fortunate enough to sit in the seat of the government, now you can start to enforce treaties on behalf of the Empire of Morocco through the government. Let me say that again. Through the government. Stand by. Before I even start reading the treaty of the Act of Sarah, we're going to read the preamble because I have to build the Moors up. Moors want to talk about taxation, but you don't want to talk about what? Repatriation. You want to talk about the result, but you don't want to talk about X times Y equals result. Let's go to the board. Moors want to talk about what? Here we go. You want to start right here. This is what Moors want to start. Yeah, man, tell me about the money. Yeah. Y'all got a check yet? See, this is what you want to do to the Z. Look at the Z. This is what you want to talk about. Watch this. Bam, bam. You want to turn it into a dollar sign. You want to know about the money, but you don't want to understand what is the due process to get access to it. You don't want to understand X times Y equals Z. You just want to talk about Z because you think Z has something to do with money. This is the problem. And this is why the white man been kicking your butt, because of your own what? Self-inflicted sabotage. You sabotage yourself because you too busy chasing the bag. But you don't know the bag comes through X times Y. Listen, this is the Black's Law Dictionary. Let's look up the definition of state, because state is all about the territory and the government and we the people. State is about the territory, the government, and we the people. Listen, Brother Dre from the top.
State, noun, a people permanently occupying a fixed territory, bound together by common law, habits, and custom into one body politic, exercising through the medium of an organized government, independent sovereignty and control over all persons and things within its boundaries, capable of making war and peace, and of entering into international relations with other communities of the globe.
Pause. One more time.
State, noun, a people permanently occupying a fixed territory, bound together by common law habits, and custom into one body politic, exercising through the medium of an organized government, independent sovereignty and control over all persons and things within its boundaries, capable of making war and peace, and of entering into international relations with other communities of the globe.
Pause. All right, so check it out. It's broke down, right? Check it out. It says state. Okay, state is a noun. Person, place, thing, or idea. So therefore, the state is a person in international law. And the state has more rights than anything that's private law. The state is public law. Everything else is subordinate and subject to the state. Listen. State, now, a people permanently occupying a fixed territory. So that's the word territory. So territory is tied to the word state, because you can't have a state without what? Territory. What is territory? Land. There's no land, there's no state. If there's no land, there's no state. So we're talking territory. Territory is tied to the word state. It's a very important word in international law. Territory. So it says state. Now, people permanently occupying a fixed territory. Listen, bound together by common law, habits and customs into one body politic. One body politic. This is the definition of state. We as a people have to become what? The people have to become what? One. Listen. The people have to become one body politic, exercising it through the medium of an organized government. Did you catch it? So the people have no choice. If the people want sovereignty through keyword, through the medium of the organized government. So what's happening? The people will not have rights. State rights. Without the people working through the government. You see this word medium? You think they just threw that in there for no reason? What does medium mean? That's in the middle. Right? Isn't that the middle? Watch. Isn't that the middle? Watch. Look at the diagram. What's at the top? Empire Morocco, the state. What's in the middle? The government. The medium is the organized government on behalf of who? We the people. because the Moorish subjects have to return and pledge allegiance to become Moroccans again. So these same Moorish subjects at some point will become Moroccans again, i.e. the people. So it's what? State, government, people. You see that? Watch. State, government, for the people. And the people have to agree to put together one body politic and exercise your rights through the government. Moors never did. They never did it. What's going to be your New Year's resolution for 2026? Are the people going to come back and repatriate to now come under one body politic of the Constitution in Morocco and start to exercise your rights through the government? Is that your New Year's resolution? Yes or no? Ain't no in between. Let me prove it to you that there is no in between. Watch this. We're going to talk law tonight. Hold on. Here's the Treaty of Madrid, Treaty Supreme on the land. Here it is again. Treaty of Madrid, 1880, Article 15, paragraph 1 says you have to do what? Choose between the entire submission to the laws of the empire. Choose between what? Being what? Naturalized or being what? A national of what? The Empire of Morocco. You only have two choices. Choose between. It's only two choices. Remain naturalized or come back and repatriate to the state of the Empire of Morocco. And you have to do that through the government. This is too easy. What's your New Year's resolution? Listen. Okay, Moors. So I have the act out of Sarah's up here because Moors want to talk about taxes. Well, if you want to talk taxation, we also have to talk about repatriation at the same time. Okay, this is the preamble. This is the preamble of the act out of Sarah's. The preamble tells you the mentality of what the 12 signatory powers were signing with the Sultan of the Empire of Morocco and the Moorish government. The preamble tells you the philosophy. The preamble tells you the philosophy, which is the mentality. And then the articles tell you what? The strategy, which is the execution. To putting into full force and effect, the action comes from the philosophy, the thought, the words. Now, you take your think and put it on ink, it turns into a treaty. But the preamble is the philosophy. The articles is the execution. It's the psychology. Psychology means your mode of action. It's the adjective. Philosophy is the noun, person, place, thing, or what? Idea. Right? Psychology is an adjective. It's the action. It's the forward action. It's described as a verb. A verb describes what? Verb and adjective. It describes an action. This is the description through words to describe an action. Listen. Listen. This is very important for the Moors to understand. I'm building up because we have to talk about repatriation if you want to talk about reparations. You have to understand what is the Empire of Morocco. The Empire of Morocco, you pledge allegiance to it, but you're pledging allegiance to what? Well, yes, you pledge allegiance to the Constitution, but the Constitution represents a state, and the state represents land, i.e. a territory. But the Empire of Morocco is vast. So back in 1906, the Sultan was sitting down with the European powers to make sure the Europeans still understood that the Empire of Morocco was still sovereign and independent, and that the integrity of its domains of an empire shall remain intact. And on top of that, the Sultan and the Moorish government was supposed to collect taxes from the Europeans. So the preamble tells you everything through what's commonly known as the triple principle. Because Moors want to talk taxation, but you also have to talk what? Repatriation. Okay, Brother Dre from the top. Here's the preamble.
Inspired by the interest attaching itself to the reign of order, peace, and prosperity in Morocco, and recognizing that the attainment thereof can only be effected by means of the introduction of reforms based upon the triple principle of the sovereignty and independence of His Majesty the Sultan, the integrity of his domains, and economic liberty without any inequality, have resolved upon the invitation of His Sharifian Majesty to call together a conference at Algeciras for the purpose of arriving at an understanding upon the said reforms, as well as examining the means for obtaining the resources necessary for their application, and have appointed as their delegates plenipotentiary the following.
All right, so this is the preamble regarding the Empire of Morocco, the Sultan, the Moorish government, and this is what the Europeans agreeing to, all right? So in the year 2025, who's the Sultan right now? Who's the Sultan? The Sultan is Kendon Bey, all right? He was elected through special election on November 10th, 2025. All right, now, as we go back to the Act out of Algeciras of 1906, it'll talk about the Sultan, but keep in mind, the Sultan back in the day was a monarch. Now the Constitution says the office of Sultan, which means it's a what? It's an elected position. The Empire of Morocco is a state. Belongs to we the people. It belongs to all the Moors collectively through what? Our Constitution. The Constitution acts as a will, as a deed, as a trust to make claim to the territories. And now the Sultan is now an elected official of the Empire of Morocco, no different than any other elected official. They just happen to be what? Head of state. Listen. All right, so from the top it says, inspired by the interest attaching itself to the reign of order, peace, and prosperity in Morocco. What about Morocco? The Empire of Morocco. From the top, inspired by the interest attaching itself to the reign of order, peace, and prosperity in Morocco, and recognizing that the attainment thereof can only be effected by means of the introduction of reforms based upon the triple principle of the sovereignty and independence of His Majesty the Sultan, the integrity of his domains, and economic liberty without any inequality. So the triple principle is about what? The triple principle is about what? Sovereignty and independence. That's in the treaty. So the Europeans have recognized the Empire of Morocco as being sovereign and independent, meaning it's the external state. Europeans also recognize what? That it's all about the integrity of domains. So the integrity of domains is about what? Enforcing your laws and your courts, because you're the sovereign of the territories. So integrity is about what? Laws and courts. It's about jurisdiction. Subject matter jurisdiction. And this is what the Europeans are recognizing. Listen, and last but not least, it's about what? Economic liberty without any inequality. So the Europeans cannot do what? They can't discriminate against the Empire of Morocco. At the same time, the Empire of Morocco needs to treat the Europeans with what? Equality. Got to treat all Europeans the same. Can't discriminate against them either. But the Moors and the Empire of Morocco is entitled to what? Economic liberty. It's entitled to what? Economic liberty. That's fundamentally written into a treaty. Treaty supreme law of the land. Listen. Who are the 12 signatory powers? We're talking what? We're talking repatriation and taxation. We're talking decolonization. Moors want reparations. Well, you got to understand what repatriation to your nation is all about, because these countries know the truth about you. And they know you have failed to repatriate, to pledge your allegiance to the Empire of Morocco. Listen, from the top it says signatory powers or third states, parties to the multilateral act outstanders of 1906 per intertemporal law. All right? So these are the contracting parties, right? Also, the Sultan was a contracting party as well. All right? So it's the Sultan and these 12 signatory powers who represented countries. And the Sultan represented what? The country of what? The Empire of Morocco. So who signed the contract? The contract signed between who? Countries, a state on state contract, you see? The Empire of Morocco is a state that's signing with 12 other countries, and they're binding themselves to a treaty. That's important to understand. States are what? Persons in international law. Listen. Now, see, a lot of these are European states. As a reminder, Europe was ran by the Moors. The Moors built civilization all around planet Earth. So even though right now I'm talking about state and territory, always remember territory is about land, but the Europeans have always known that the Moors were controlling the territories. These are the coats of arms of Moors, even throughout Europe. They somewhat want you to forget that. They want you to think Moors were only in a little bitty corner called the Kingdom of Morocco. That's a damn lie. So we just stick to the 12 signatory powers. Listen, here's the 12 signatory powers again. European states. Now we go back to the image again. These are the Moors of these European states. The Moors were running the governments of all those territories all throughout Europe, all over the world. They want you to forget. So when you look at these treaties, always remember that the Sultan of the Empire of Morocco was only standing in for the Moors. As an example, let me go back real quick. Listen, as an example, here's the Treaty of Madrid of 1880. You won't find the word Arab nowhere in it. But you keep seeing the word Moor, such as what? Any subject of Morocco is about the Moors. But you won't find the word Arab. Right? 1906. This is what? Check it out. This treaty of the Act of Algeciras is about Moors. You won't see the word Arab in it nowhere. Why? I'll show you why. Because it's about Moors. It's all been about the Sultan and the Moors. Okay? Now check this out. These are crests. Moors know this already. This is redundant information. Moors know about this. But check this out. Check this out. Moors know about this, right? This statue. This is a Moor in Europe. The statue is still there today. Guess where it's located? In Switzerland. And where's Switzerland? Okay. If we looked at a map of Europe, where's Switzerland? Switzerland is by Italy and France, right? There's Switzerland right there in the middle. So that statue is in Switzerland of a Moor. They know the Moors ran all of Europe. So don't ever let them fool you think Moors were only in one little corner of Africa. That's a lie, and they know it. Okay? The Moors, looking like the Jackson 5. Listen, today, I like to take the Moors in the direction of understanding what's commonly known as the Western Sahara, because the Western Sahara is about Moors. This is the case of the International Court of Justice regarding the Western Sahara, right? You can find that at the ICJ website. This case was regarding what? This image right here. Whereas the Kingdom of Morocco is trying to annex the Western Sahara. The Kingdom of Morocco is a brand new name on planet Earth starting in 1956. Was trying to lay claim to the Western Sahara. So the reason why we're going to go over this case, because it's something very important the Moors must understand. You have to start understanding the distinction between inner Morocco and outer Morocco. I'll say it again. Inner Morocco and outer Morocco, because we're talking territory. There is no state, there's no empire of Morocco without territory. Territory is what? Land. So in this case, the King of Morocco was trying to annex land, i.e. territory. But they were not successful in 1975 in annexing this land. They could not make a proper claim to this territory because the King of Morocco is a brand new state on planet Earth starting in 1956. They can't make a claim as if they are the Empire of Morocco. So you got the Empire of Morocco as a country name, then you got King of Morocco as a country name. Two separate legal personalities. So the King of Morocco was trying to pretend like they're the Empire of Morocco. The king of the Kingdom of Morocco is trying to pretend like he's still the Sultan of the Empire of Morocco. Wrong answer. And this is why he lost. Now, why are we going over this case? See, the Europeans and the king of Morocco, they started to talk out loud. They started letting the secrets out. They don't want to really have full disclosure because then they have to talk about the Moors way too much. But they had no choice but to just squeak in the word Moor. But they really want to talk about the Moors and the Empire of Morocco and the Sultan. But if they talk about the Empire of Morocco, the Sultan, and the Moors, that means what? Now the Moors are going to wake up and realize they still have a right of claim to what? Territories. Through what name of a country? Empire of Morocco. Because the Kingdom of Morocco is an imposter name. It's a brand new name making a claim to a territory that belongs to who? The Empire of Morocco. The King of Morocco is like an overlay. A brand new state is an overlay over top of the Empire of Morocco. It's like veneers. The King of Morocco is a veneer over top of the real tooth. Believe that. Now, why are we going to talk about this? Now, keep in mind, this is not about really talking about the king of Morocco of 1975. Keep in mind as we read this, is me trying to explain to you the distinction between inner Morocco and outer Morocco. That's the concept. All right, that's what I will try to teach in this moment. Listen. Okay. Let's go to the Western Sahara case. It's a short read. We're going to read the overview. Brother Drake from the top.
On 13 December 1974, the General Assembly requested an advisory opinion on the following questions. 1. Was Western Sahara, Rio de Oro, and Sakia il Hamra at the time of colonization by Spain a territory belonging to no one, terra nullius? If the answer to the first question is in the negative, what were the legal ties between this territory and the Kingdom of Morocco and the Mauritanian entity? In its advisory opinion delivered on 16 October 1975, the court replied to question 1 in the negative. 2. The court replied to question 1 in the affirmative. 3. The court replied to question 1 in the negative. 4. The court replied to question 1 in the affirmative. 5. The court replied to question 1 in the negative. 6. The court replied to question 1 in the negative. 7. The court replied to question 1 in the negative. 8. The court replied to question 1 in the negative. 9. The court replied to question 1 in the negative. 10. The court replied to question 1 in the negative. 11. The court replied to question 1 in the negative. 12. The court replied to question 1 in the negative. 13. The court replied to question 1 in the negative. 14. The court replied to question 1 in the negative. 15. The court replied to question 1 in the negative. 16. The court replied to question 1 in the negative. 17. The court replied to question 1 in the negative. 18. The court replied to question 1 in the negative. 19. The court replied to question 1 in the negative. 20. The court replied to question 1 in the negative. In reply to question 2, it expressed the opinion that the materials and information presented to it showed the existence at the time of Spanish colonization of legal ties of allegiance between the Sultan of Morocco and some of the tribes living in the territory of Western Sahara. They equally showed the existence of rights, including some rights relating to the land, which constituted legal ties between the Mauritanian entity, as understood by the court, and the territory of Western Sahara. On the other hand, the court's conclusion was that the materials and information presented to it did not establish any tie of territorial sovereignty between the territory of Western Sahara and the Kingdom of Morocco or the Mauritanian entity. Thus, the court did not find any legal ties of such a nature as might affect the application of the General Assembly's 1960 Resolution 1514, containing the Declaration on the granting of independence to colonial countries and peoples, in the decolonization of Western Sahara, and in particular of the principle of self-determination through the free and genuine expression of the will of the peoples of the territory.
All right, so the last words you heard was through the will of the people of the territory. This word territory is very important. We're going to go over that. Now, what's important here to learn? Watch how I break down the overview. Watch how the Europeans and the ICJ knew that the king of Morocco and the king, at the time it was King Hassan II, he was trying to make a claim to some extra territory. Why did he fail? It's because he wasn't the Sultan, A, and B, the only legal entity that could make a claim to the territories was who? The Empire of Morocco. Watch how it reads. This is important for the Moors to understand, because the Moors start to lay claim to territories throughout the Empire of Morocco. We have to understand our own legal arguments. If the Moors don't understand their own legal arguments to make a proper claim to the sovereignty of our own territories, then we will fail. So we can go back and read this case and see how the Kingdom of Morocco failed. And how did they fall? How did they fail? It wasn't a proper name to make the proper claim. Listen. On 13 December 1974, the General Assembly of the United Nations requested an advisory opinion on the following questions. Question 1. Was the Western Sahara, Rio de Oro, and Saki el Hamra at the time of colonialism by Spain a territory belonging to no one, terra nullius, question mark? If the answer to the first question is in the negative, meaning no, then you go on to question 2. Question 2, what were the legal ties between the territory and the Kingdom of Morocco and the Mauritanian entity? That's the question. So it continues to say, is advisory opinion of the ICJ delivered on 16 October 1975, the ICJ court replied to question 1 in the negative. They said, no, the land was not void of Moors. It wasn't just bare land. Number 2, it says, in reply to question 2, it expressed the opinion that the materials and information presented to the court showed the existence at the time of Spain colonization of legal ties of allegiance between the Sultan of Morocco. Listen, the ICJ said, we see proof that the territory is tied to the Sultan of Morocco and the Empire of Morocco. Let me say it again. See it? The court said, we see proof of the Sultan of Morocco laying the claim. And some of the tribes living in the territory of Western Sahara. What tribes? The Moorish tribes. So the Moors had a tie to who? The Sultan of Morocco. Which Morocco? The Empire of Morocco and not the kingdom. You see how the ICJ is sliding in? Well, who brought the case? Who was the plaintiff? Kingdom of Morocco. Who was head of state of King of Morocco? A king. So the ICJ said, yeah, Mr. King, you're not the Sultan. Yeah, you're talking about a totally different office. And on top of that, you're talking about the Empire of Morocco, not the kingdom. How are you in this court trying to make a claim? You are plaintiff in error. You don't have no claim. Listen. They equally showed the existence of rights, including some rights relating to the land, that's territory, which constituted legal ties between the monetary entity as understood by the court and the territory of Western Sahara. On the other hand, the court's conclusion was that the materials and information presented to it did not establish any tie of territorial sovereignty between the territory of Western Sahara and the Kingdom of Morocco. So the Kingdom of Morocco, right? Kingdom of Morocco had no proper claim to what? Listen, the Kingdom of Morocco, as a brand new entity name started in 1956, could not lay claim to the Western Sahara. Why? Because only the Sultan of the Empire of Morocco could even bring a claim towards territory, because these Moors in this territory recognized the Sultan of the Empire of Morocco back in the day, prior to 1956. Now you got this imposter called the Kingdom of Morocco, which is a brand new entity, like a brand new car that still got paper tags on it, trying to make a claim. It's shameful. But who supported the Kingdom of Morocco? The European countries, i.e. NATO, because NATO and the United States want access to what? The natural resources inland, and they want access to what? All of this out here, these Canary Islands and all the minerals that's 200 miles from the sea coast, right? 200 nautical miles. So the Europeans want access because they want to legally steal all the natural resources from who? The Moors. So you got the Arab king still trying to subjugate Moors. You see that? But he couldn't make a proper claim. Listen to what I'm saying. The ICJ rejected his claim. Why? Wrong party name. Listen. Same thing goes for Moors. If you're claiming to be a Moorish American, guess what? Wrong party name. Wrong party name. This is why Moors couldn't make a claim. This is important. This is important what I'm going over. This is the Act of Algeciras of 1906. As soon as it opens up and it starts to talk about the Moors, look what it says who the Moors are. Look who it says the Moors are. This is Article 2. It says the Moorish, they're all who? Moroccan. Did it say American? No. So Moorish Americans have failed at making a claim to territories and sovereignty, just like the king of the Kingdom of Morocco failed. You see what's happening? It's all about contract law. Do you know how to enforce the contract? What's the first rule in contract law? The parties must be known. You can't make a claim if you're not the proper party to the contract. This is why Moors have failed. And type in this word Moor. Watch this. Listen, we're going to go to Article, 97. Let's go to Article 96. You see the word Moor? Right? See the word Moor? The Moors? What's the Moors' nationality? Let's push. What's the Moors' nationality? Moroccans. See that? This is French. So Europeans know that the Moors are Moroccans. Moors are not Americans. Moors are not Canadian. Moors are Moroccans. According to treaties. Listen. Okay, so in the case of Western Sahara, listen to me, we're talking what? Repatriation to your nation, but your nation is known as being a state, and the state lays claim to what? Territory. So in the Western Sahara case, they're fighting over what? What's the last word? The will of what? The will of the peoples of the what? Territory. You see that? The whole game about territory. It's like the game of chess. Chess is a game of territory control. Two players are fighting over controlling territory. In this game, you have to capture the other person's king in order to control what? All of the territory. It's about territory. So when you're talking decolonization, what is decolonization about? It's about reclaiming what? Your territory. And then you have to govern over the territory with what? State constitution and government. Listen, talking territory. It's important to the Moors. We want to talk taxes. We want to talk taxation and reparations. But we have to talk about what? Repatriation back to your state, because your state controls what? Territory. Let's look up the definition of territory. This is important for the Moors. Please pay attention, Moors. This is important for you. Okay, Noah from the top.
Territory is a noun. Plural territories, synonyms of territory. 1. A geographic area belonging to or under the jurisdiction of a governmental authority. B. An administrative subdivision of a country. C. A part of the U.S. not included within any state but organized with a separate legislature. D. A geographic area such as a colonial possession dependent on an external government but having some degree of autonomy.
All right, now I'll take it from the top. Territory, very important word in international law. 1A, a geographic area belonging to or under. A territory is a geographic area belonging to or under the jurisdiction of a governmental authority. So territories belong to the state, and the state has a government, and that government has jurisdiction in that territory. But what are we learning already on the territory? Once again, that's that word government, isn't it? See the word government? So if Moors don't have jurisdiction, unless Moors had a government. Because who has authority? The government. This is where Moors dropped the ball. Listen. B, an administrative subdivision of a country. So the country controls the territory through what? An administrative subdivision. So the administration, which is the government. C, a part of U.S. not included within any state, but organized with a separate legislature. D, a geographic area such as a colonial possession, dependent on an external government, but having some degree of autonomy. Let's pause right there. Let's listen. Definition of territory, subsection D, a geographic area such as a colonial possession. So the United States is controlling a colonial possession, right? A geographical area such as a colonial possession dependent on an external government. So who's depending on the external government? The Moors. Who's the external government as an example? The United States is operating as an external government. And they know the Moors have been in a dependency status because the Moors were naturalized. Therefore, the Moors were adopted. Therefore, if you're adopted, meaning you're naturalized, it means you're dependent on your what? External government, which is the United States of America, all because the Moors didn't do what? expatriate back to their own country and pledge allegiance. Therefore, what does this mean? The United States is doing what? They're controlling the territory. Because Moors are still dependent. Instead of what? Independent. Read again, territory, section D, as in Delta, a geographic area such as a colonial possession dependent on an external government, but having some degree of autonomy. Well, wait. So the Moors are dependent, but the United States has said, well, we'll give these Moors some degree of autonomy, some degree, some small delusional thought that the Moors can be slightly independent, i.e. autonomy means you can have some limited, what? Liberty, but you still are dependent upon who? The United States. This is why Moors run around thinking that they have some type of liberty under the word Moor. But the United States is saying you Moors have a little bit of degree of autonomy, but you still depend on the United States because the Moors have failed to do what? What did the Moors fail to do? Let's go back to it. What did the Moors fail to do? This Treaty of Madrid, 1880, Article 15 says, any subject of Morocco who has been naturalized in a foreign country and who shall return to Morocco shall choose between entire submission to the laws of the Empire of Morocco's government. Have the Moors done that? No. And the Europeans know you haven't done it, so they come over here and they say, well, in this territory that's really Morocco, the United States gets to maintain a colonial possession for these dependent Moors who are run around with some degree of autonomy. But yet they're still colonized and naturalized. We're talking territory. Okay, listen. Okay, in this case of Western Sahara, this is important, Moors. Please pay attention. This is for you. I already read it. So I'm reading this for you. So you can understand. So we can all come together. We're family. Listen. Okay, Brother Dre from the top.
Separate opinion of Judge DeCastro. I have voted in favor of the advisory opinion because it states that there are no ties of sovereignty between the territory of Western Sahara and the Kingdom of Morocco and the Mauritanian entity, and that the principle of self-determination should be applied to the said territory, thereby giving a correct, clear, and conclusive reply to the real questions put to the court. On the other hand, I cannot go along with the advisory opinion either in its statement regarding the existence of other legal ties between the territory and the Kingdom of Morocco and the Mauritanian entity, nor in all its reasoning. In order to justify my vote, I feel obliged to set out my separate opinion below.
All right, so what's happened? This judge is rejected. He said, no, King Morocco don't have no claim. Brand new kid on planet Earth. King Morocco wasn't established in 1956. It's not an ancient country. It's not an ancient state. It has no claim to nothing. But it didn't stop them from trying to make a claim to the Western Sahara. So listen to me. Why did the king of the King of Morocco think he had a claim to the Western Sahara? Because he's trying to invoke what? Ancient treaties. And was commented on under time immemorial to say the Empire of Morocco has always had a claim because the Empire of Morocco never what? Waived its right of claim to all these territories of the empire. You see, the king, King Hassan II, in 1975, he knew that the Empire of Morocco as a country still existed. So he was trying to invoke the rights of the Empire of Morocco through a different name called the Kingdom of Morocco as if the King of Morocco was the power of attorney on behalf of the Empire of Morocco. The Kingdom of Morocco as an entity is not the power of attorney on behalf of the Empire of Morocco. But he's still trying. So he was trying to combine these two legal personalities to pretend like he could still make a claim as if he was still the Empire of Morocco and the Sultan, but he was not. He was the king of the Kingdom of Morocco. He had no claim. But listen to me. He still tried to slide it in. Why? Because he knew that the Empire of Morocco still exists. It never waived its right to be a country. And the Empire of Morocco has claim to all types of territories all throughout planet Earth. He knows it. The Arabs know this. That the Empire of Morocco is sitting there collecting dust. It had no government after 1956. It's like a buried treasure. The Hassan II in 1975 tried to go dig up. And they told him, no. Listen. Okay, now we're going to jump down. Going to jump down to this subsection called Historic Ties with Morocco. Now I'm building up, okay? Historic ties with Morocco. Now they're talking about history, going way back to ancient times. All right, now listen, before I go any further, let me get to my point. You see right here, Morris? This is page 155, okay? 155. Look what the judge talks about. Under this subsection called A, let's talk about this real quick. As I continue to move forward, I don't want to lose the Moore's attention here because I need to make my point. Okay? Dre from the top. A.
A. Unbroken relations between Morocco and the Sahara. The statement submitted to the court by Morocco mentioned as relevant historic ties and memorial relations existing between Morocco and the Sahara, as well as a series of special facts cited as proofs of Morocco's authority over Western Sahara. The following quotation in the second part of the written statement of Morocco is italicized to indicate the importance attached to it. This basic fact of Moroccan history, the periodic conquest of Inner Morocco by Outer Morocco, in most cases a dynasty that has come into being beyond the Atlas, has conquered Atlantic Morocco. The passage quoted is used equivocally. It seems to have been interpreted as meaning that there are two Moroccos, Inner Morocco and Outer Morocco. And that Outer Morocco is the Sahara.
Pause. Take it from the top.
A. Unbroken relations between Morocco and the Sahara. The statements submitted to the court by Morocco mention as relevant historic ties and memorial relations existing between Morocco and the Sahara, as well as a series of special facts cited as proofs of Morocco's authority over Western Sahara. The following quotation in the second part of the written statement of Morocco is italicized to indicate the importance attached to it. This basic fact of Moroccan history, the periodic conquest of Inner Morocco by Outer Morocco, in most cases, a dynasty that has come into being beyond the Atlas, has conquered Atlantic Morocco. The passage quoted is used equivocally. It seems to have been interpreted as meaning that there are two Moroccos, Inner Morocco and Outer Morocco, and that Outer Morocco is the Sahara.
Pause. Okay, let's pick it up right here. The passage quoted is used equivocally. It seems to have been interpreted as meaning that there are two Moroccos, Inner Morocco and Outer Morocco. What does that mean? There's two Moroccos. What's the interpretation here? You see, they know that Morocco is an empire. Therefore, the empire expands over continents and islands. But an empire, just like most countries, has what? Somewhat of a district. You ever heard of the District of Columbia of the United States, Washington, D.C.? You see, the United States of America is technically broke down into inner United States of America and outer United States of America. In this example, what would be inner United States of America? Washington, D.C., District of Columbia. Outer United States of America would be anything outside of the District of Columbia. So the United States of America lays claim to what? Hawaii, Alaska, Puerto Rico, the American Samoa Islands, all types of territories. Isn't that correct? So is the United States of America just one fixed border? No, it expands abroad to different territories such as Hawaii. Therefore, there's an inner United States of America, District of Columbia, and an outer United States of America, which extends all the way to Hawaii. The Empire Morocco is no different. But let me give you another example. That way you can see a visual of what I'm talking about. I asked Google, how many states are within France? Here's the answer, Nova.
France has a total of 18 administrative regions, which include 13 metropolitan regions located in mainland France and 5 overseas regions. These regions are further subdivided into departments and arrondissements for administrative purposes.
Just a moment. So France, look at this map. I'm about to show you the distinction between inner and outer of a country. People say, well, where's France? You say, oh, France is in Europe. Isn't that right? You see what they call itself? Metropolitan France, Europe. You see the dark blue represents the land, and the light blue represents what's commonly known as nautical miles off the shore of water. Sea, right? Sea rights, right? So dark blue is the land. Light blue is the water. So people say, well, where's France? You say, oh, it's in Europe. But is it? It depends on who you ask. Who understands what? Law and history. When it comes to the word called inner and outer of a state, watch. You see this right here? This right here is France. See that island? That's France. Saint Pierre and Miquelon. See this island right here? Right here in the middle, near what they call the Caymans and all that. Saint Barthélemy, Guadeloupe, Martinique, all these islands. That's France. But look at South America. Isn't that a continent? Isn't that a continent? Yeah. So right here, French Guiana. That's France. The dark blue is France. The light blue is the 200 nautical miles they have that they're claiming as territory. Part of the territory. So you got what? Land rights, air rights, sea rights. Right? Watch. Now push to the left. Look at all these islands way over here. All this is France. See right here? This island, Clipperton Island, that's France. Where else is France? The French Polynesia. Look at all these cluster of islands. French Polynesia, that's France. Look, a little further to the left, this Wallis and Futuna, 2 islands, that's France. Okay, let's come back over here, near Madagascar, near Africa. So France owns all these islands, that's France. Here's some more islands, that's France. All these islands. Now watch this. Look over here, way over here past Australia. New Caledonia, way over here. That's France. Listen. So you say, well, where's France? You say, well, you talking about inner France or outer France? Where's inner France? Well, here it is. Where's outer France? Everywhere you see blue on the map is France. Watch what they say about New Caledonia. Watch this. I need more to understand where I'm going with this. I'm talking about the empire. Morocco is just like France. There's an inner empire Morocco, the district, then there's outer empire Morocco, the empire itself. That covers what? Continents and islands. They don't want the Moors to know this. Listen. New Caledonia, let's see what they talk about with New Caledonia since it's France. Listen, New Caledonia, right? All right, Nova, from the top, let's read about what does it say about New Caledonia? From the top.
New Caledonia is a French territory comprising a group of islands in the Southwest Pacific Ocean. 220 kilometers, 140 miles, southwest of Vanuatu, and 1,210 kilometers, 750 miles east of Australia. Located 16,100 kilometers, 10,000 miles from metropolitan France. It forms a sui generis collectivity of the French Republic, a legal status unique in overseas France, enshrined in a dedicated chapter of the French Constitution and with an ongoing project to a status of state of New Caledonia.
All right, so from the top, it says what? New Caledonia is what? It's a part of the metropolitan France. It forms a sui generis collectivity of the French Republic. So New Caledonia is part of what? The French Republic, means a part of the same state. It is a legal status unique in overseas France. So is France in Europe? Or is France in the Indian Ocean? But it's unique. Why is it unique? Because France is still operating like they're still part of an empire. When you say the word empire, that means what? A group of what? States and countries under a single authority. That's the definition of empire. So New Caledonia is part of the French Republic. It's a part of the same state, even though it's thousands of miles away. Why is this important to note for the Moors? And before I do that, let's click on let's click what do the people look like on the island? There they go. They're Moors. They don't refer to themselves as Moors, but France know they're Moors. These people come under the French Republic. They have a French passport. Why is that important to understand? Listen, Moors. Going back to the case of Western Sahara, the Europeans and the king of Morocco are talking out loud. They're talking about this from the top. It says the passage quoted is used equivocally. It seems to have been interpreted meaning that there are two Moroccos. Inner Morocco and outer Morocco. Well, they said this in 1975, but at the same time the New France was also inner what? France and outer France. This is not a new concept that they're talking about the ICJ. But they're still trying to figure out, does the empire still exist or not? And they're saying the king of Morocco is saying what? Yes. Hassan II was saying, yeah, the empire still exists. And they told him, but it don't exist for you. It don't exist for who? The Moors. Because the Moorish government begins to run the empire of Morocco. Because the Arabs waived their right to sit in the seat. Because they decided to have a brand new country called the Kingdom of Morocco, which is an overlay. It is a veneer over top of the Empire of Morocco. You got to understand what I'm saying here. The Europeans and the king started talking too much out loud in 1975 when they thought they tried to bury the Empire of Morocco in 1956. So almost 25 years later, here comes the king knocking the dust off the Empire of Morocco. And the Europeans are like, man, what the hell are you doing? Why are you still pretending like the Empire of Morocco still exists, Mr. Hassan II? Go sit down somewhere. You're going to mess around and let the Illuminati secret out again that the Empire of Morocco is in the absence of a government and that these Moors are going to be able to sit right back into the Moorish government and the chair of the Sultan. So when they started talking about inner Morocco, let me increase that. It's important for the Moors to understand. I'm staying here for a second. Because Moors don't know nothing about this. You ain't never been taught nothing about this. It's shameful that the Moors have been studying for over 100 years and you don't even know this information. But we're going to learn today. This is an AMPAC study session. This is an educational platform to teach the Moors their rights. Okay. Moors will understand there's an inner Morocco and an outer Morocco. And the example I'm using is France. Here's France. So the Empire of Morocco is no different. If the Empire of Morocco says, okay, let's say we're going to move the district. We're going to say the district, and let's say it's, we're going to say it's Houston. We're going to say the district, the inner Morocco. According to our Constitution, we can say inner Morocco is now Houston as a district. And everything outside of this district of inner Morocco is now what? Outer Morocco. So everything would be blue. Just like France is blue, and everywhere they have a territory, the Empire of Morocco would be blue regarding what? At the very least, think about it. At the very least, regarding what? The 12 signatory powers. The European states know that that's the Empire of Morocco, which is outer Morocco. Where is outer Morocco? Everywhere these 12 signatory powers is laying claim to territory is outer Morocco. Whereas inner Morocco, wherever the Moorish government decides to make the inner Morocco, i.e. the district. Just like the District of Columbia, the Moors can create a district of the Empire of Morocco. That's inner Morocco versus outer. Listen, always remember, these are images in Europe. These are coats of arms of the Moors all throughout Europe. They want you to forget that it's the Empire of Morocco for Moors. These are Moorish coats of arms. Don't ever forget that. This is why the 12 signatory powers, listen, they know who was occupying those territories first. It's the Moors. The Moors were there first. The Moors have built Moorish buildings all throughout Europe, all throughout the world for that sake. You see, the Moorish architecture is what you call what? The art of fact. It's the fact of art. See, our Moorish buildings by itself shows the whole world we were there first. We were there first. Just by the fact of those megalithic stone buildings that they did not build. So if they didn't build them, how are they making claims to territories when there's buildings that the Moors built first, that now the Europeans are occupying? You must understand why they were signing treaties with the Sultan. Because the Sultan and the Europeans know that all that territory belonged to the Moors in the first place. Even the Sultan, who was an Arab, understood he was just sitting there in the place of a Moor, only because the Moors let the Arabs sit there as the sovereigns over our own territories. Because we got caught up in what? Religion. We started pledging allegiance to religion instead of pledging allegiance to our country. We got caught up with a book instead of getting caught up with a constitution. That's what happened to the Moors. We pledged allegiance to religious deities. We pledged allegiance to religious figureheads. And we gave the Arabs our territories in replace of a religious book. They gave us the book and they took the damn land. That's what happened. Europeans did the same thing. They gave us a book and they took the land. And the Moors still running around here talking about, see this book I read? But you're not talking about the constitution of your country. The foolishness. What's going to be your resolution for 2026? Okay. I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to pause right here. I'll pick this back up in the next class. I'll pick it back up. But you must understand, the Empire of Morocco is just like France. France is controlling territories inland. France is controlling territories of islands. France is even controlling territories of an entire different continent way down in South America, calling it French Guyana. Don't ever let the Europeans fool you that the Empire of Morocco is still not alive and well, that the Empire of Morocco is not special. The Empire of Morocco is very, very, very special. It's the most unique country on planet Earth. Because even King Hassan II in 1975, even he tried to go do what? Dig up the treasury. And they told him, no, you can't do it. And even France has been trying to hold on to the treasury. This is why right now they're all fighting over what? What are they fighting over? See this right here? They know this territory belongs to who? The Empire of Morocco, the Western Sahara. With all due respect to all the Moors in this territory, the Western Sahara was a part of the Empire of Morocco. If these Moors in this territory ever decide that they want to be a part of the Empire of Morocco again, nobody on planet Earth can stop them, because it's easy to prove the Western Sahara was a territory of the Sultan of the Empire of Morocco, and the ICJ already confirmed that. So the Europeans in the year 2025, in the last couple of years, they've been trying to do what? they've been trying to expedite. You look on TV, right now we in December 2025, you look on TV, why are they trying to expedite taking over this territory? Because they know the Empire of Morocco and the Sultan is back. Listen, they know the Empire of Morocco and the Sultan is back. It's Kingdom Bey, the Sultan of the Empire of Morocco. That must be understood. They understand this. Trust me when I tell you, boys. They're moving fast because the Europeans want to make sure that the Empire of Morocco doesn't get involved with the politics. They want to make sure the Empire of Morocco doesn't get involved with the politics of the Western Sahara in the next couple years. So the Europeans are trying to pump the Moors in this territory to come under the jurisdiction of the Arabs. Keep in mind, it's number of Moors. And they know Kingdom Bey is going to have something to say. All right? I'll pick this up next class. End with that. Islam.